Absolute outrage this morning against Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling and his apparent racist comments caught on tape. Everyone from President Obama to Sterling's own wife expressing outrage, and his players staging their own protest, refusing to wear the team's logo during the warm-up for their game last night. ABC's Cecilia Vega is in Oakland, where the game was played. Good morning to you, Cecilia.
Lara, good morning to you. The calls for Donald Sterling to either step down or face sanctions are growing louder this morning. And with this controversy swirling, he was not here in his usual courtside seat to see his team lose to the Golden State Warriors. They are the recordings shaking the NBA to its core this morning.
It bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people.
That voice, allegedly LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling, in an apparently racist rant about African Americans to his former mistress, V. Stiviano. In the recordings obtained by TMZ Sports, it appears Sterling's alleged rant was sparked by this photo. Stiviano with Hall of Famer Magic Johnson.
You can do anything, but don't put them on this event for the world has to see, so they have to call me. And don't bring them into my games, okay?
The comments outraging everyone from fans, it was very racist, to Magic Johnson himself.
He's got to give up the team. If he doesn't like African Americans, and you're in a league that's over 70% African Americans. Ding, 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 ding.
The Clippers even staged a silent protest in Oakland Sunday, throwing their warm-up uniforms in center court, wearing their shirts inside out.
It's a unified statement.
Coach Doc Rivers telling me exclusively he hopes fans stick with the team through the controversy.
You know, a lot of times it's the team that helps the fans. I think in this case it may be the exact opposite.
Even the president slammed Sterling.
When ignorant folks want to advertise their ignorance, you don't really have to do anything, you just let them talk.
Sterling has twice been sued by the Justice Department for racial discrimination over his alleged refusal to rent apartments to minorities. The cases were settled. ABC News tracked down Stiviano, who is being sued by Sterling's wife. She told us she isn't talking.
No comments.
But Stiviano's attorney calls the recordings legitimate. And overnight, Sterling's wife told us, "Our family is devastated by the racist comments made by my estranged husband." While the Clippers haven't verified if the voice is Sterling's, the team's president says Mr. Sterling is emphatic that what is reflected on that recording is not consistent with, nor does it reflect his views, beliefs, or feelings.
Many fans aren't buying it.
I think he needs to kind of be put in his place and he needs to be gone.
He needs to be gone, out.
Yeah.
Now, so many fans here telling me that exact same thing. They want to see Sterling go. Now, how these tapes got out is still a mystery. Stiviano's attorney tells us that she did not release these tapes to the media. George?
Thanks, Cecilia. We are joined now by Sacramento Mayor Kevin Johnson, who is spearheading the players' response to this controversy as chairman of the NBA Players Association. Good morning, Mayor.
Hey, good morning, George.
You've called this a defining moment for the league. You've met with the commissioner. If these tapes are authenticated, what kind of discipline would the players want to see?
I think it's very clear that, the players feel, first of all, these comments were reprehensible and unacceptable. I got a phone call immediately from Chris Paul, who asked me to weigh in and help the Players Association navigate through this very difficult time. I was very humbled and certainly did not hesitate. In terms of the players, if I had to say one word in what they're feeling, they feel outraged. And when I say outraged, we had an emergency phone call with the executive committee and the player representatives, and they want their voices heard. They don't want to be passive participants in this. They want to be able to weigh in. And in terms of your question, they want the most severe sanctions that are allowable under the bylaws of this Constitution in the NBA.
Is suspension enough?
I think we want to know what broad range of powers the commissioner has, what does he have at his discretion, and whatever that most severe sanction is, that's what they want. I would imagine it will be some sort of suspension. I will imagine it will be a very stiff fine. We think that the commissioner needs to act forcefully and very quickly.
Suspension and fine, one thing, but we've already seen people like Magic Johnson say he should be pressured to sell the team. Do you agree with that?
I think we want to let the due process run its course. I think everyone's wrestling with not being too hasty and rush to judgment, but at the same time, we can't be hesitant as a players association. We want our voices heard, and I will tell you that players do not think that he's fit to own an NBA team.
Do you agree with that?
I think I do agree with it. If everything is authenticated, then I think it's very clear this is the worst kind of intolerance, the worst kind of ignorance. And it does not represent the NBA. And players want two-way accountability. Players want a code of conduct where they have to hold themselves to a high standard. Players also want the owners to have a similar code of conduct where they have to hold themselves to a high standard. And I think we feel very strongly that the most severe sanctions that are possible are important. And ultimately, if the commissioner does not have the discretion to ultimately say a person has to sell a team, then this needs to be part of an ongoing discussion.
Mayor Johnson, thanks very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Dan Abrams here with me right now. You just heard the players and Kevin Johnson want the Sterling to go. Can the commissioner force that?
The commissioner probably can't expel him based on the contract and the agreement they have in place. But the NBA has pretty wide latitude. Expect a really stiff fine here. Expect a suspension. That would be a first. And the question becomes, how significant a suspension? They could suspend him indefinitely, which could do exactly what you were hearing the mayor talk about, which is the possibility of forcing him to effectively sell the team.
Pressure campaign. Okay, Dan Abrams, thanks very much.